Great, thanks for giving us the quick and dirty here. Can you outline the problem that we're facing right now? Not that the big picture, we all know we need to stop fossil fuel infrastructure because the planet is going to die. Smaller picture, slightly, what are we doing in New York?
So as you know, everyone talks big about stopping fossil fuel consumption because it contributes to local pollution problems and global climate change. But then the problem is that local, state, and federal authorities have been allowing these massive fossil fuel projects to continue to be built, expanded, and that's how come, really, the truth is, we're more addicted to fossil fuel than ever before. So we're now working to block the Dominion New Market Transmission Project. So it comes into New York State from Pennsylvania, basically west of Elmira, and then it actually has a compressor station in Dryden, New York, right outside Ithaca, and then it goes all the way over to the Capital District. And so toxics targeting documented that at 219 Ellis Hollow Creek Road, this Borger compressor station, they identified an old disposal area where an unknown heavy petroleum has been dumped, and it was never cleaned up to the applicable standards. And so you can see that the contamination was not fully removed because it was right next to a protected wetland. And this wetland drains into Cascadilla Creek, which is a major tributary to Cayuga Lake. And this is an email from Richard Brazel, who was the spill investigator, and he confirms that there are exceedances at this spill and that this spill was never cleaned up to the applicable standards. So it poses a continuing threat to Cayuga Lake, where 30,000 people get their drinking water. So this is the stormwater pollution prevention plan that was conducted by Dominion for Newmarket. And so you can see this limit of disturbance in yellow, but then they wanted variances for these orange areas. But you can see that this is highly incomplete because it did not identify all of the wetlands, including the ones that were impacted by this historic dumping. And so this is now the key area, and this is the key area. These are the orange areas that are the revised limits of disturbance. And you can see these wetlands are very close by. So this is the one that we're most concerned about. So the orange area is the limited disturbance, and you can see there's a wetland here, there's a wetland there, and there's an area of concern where toxic contamination was never cleaned up. That's AOC1. So here is a close-up, and you can see that this wetland and this wetland are actually connected inside the limit of disturbance. And at a recent public meeting, Dominion said that they were going to dig out this giant structure. This is an aerial photograph, so it looks teeny, but in reality it's very large. And right here is where that area of concern number 1 is. And so this really should never have been allowed, and it was only because they got variances from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And so all of the approvals have been granted for Dominion Newmarket, despite all the shortcomings of this stormwater pollution prevention plan. The town of Dryden never required these contamination problems to be cleaned up. they didn't require a special use permit for this new market expansion, even though in earlier expansions they did require a special use permit proceeding. And so at the very last minute, we discovered all these problems with the environmental assessment, with the failure to clean up the problems at Borger, and the fact that the town of Dryden granted all of the regulatory approvals, really without understanding any of these matters. And now we are now telling all the fractivists who care about blocking new infrastructure projects to tell the town of Dryden to revoke all of the local approvals, notably the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, require a special use permit proceeding, and then deny the permit. Because this Borger expansion is completely contrary to the land use comprehensive plan for the town. And the problem is, if this project goes forward, number one, it'll perpetuate fossil fuel consumption on a vast scale for decades to come. Number two, Dominion will never clean up the contamination at Borger unless they're required to do so before being allowed to proceed. So because the town of Dryden didn't really know what was going on, they didn't take these appropriate actions. Now they're probably afraid if they try to block the project, they'll be sued. The solution to that is to require the state of New York to revoke the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. That way, the state may get sued, but then it has the Attorney General to defend the state of New York. So fractivists are telling the town of Dryden, in no uncertain terms, block this project. And we're telling people to call Jason Leifer, the town supervisor, at 607-844-8888, press 6. And people can email him at supervisor@dryden.ny.us. And anyone that wants to also talk to the other board members, just go to their website, Town of Dryden, New York. So we understand it's the 11th hour, but there's just no excuse for the town of Dryden not to step up and try to kill this massive fossil fuel pipeline expansion project. The only way to ultimately stop using fossil fuels that contribute to local contamination problems and global climate change is to stop building these facilities and to simply drive down energy demand through home insulation, weatherization, energy efficiency. But basically that's just not happening. We're waiting for wind and solar nirvana. That's not happening. When you get 2.4% of our energy from wind, 0.4% of our energy is generated by solar. So we can't keep approving these projects. So the town of Dryden talks all the time about how much they're against global climate change, but yet they're not willing to step up to block this project. So citizens can tell them in no uncertain terms, block this project, kill this project, clean up the contamination, otherwise we're holding you accountable. And that's all we're asking, but we need a deluge of calls. 607-844-8888, press 6 for Supervisor Leifer, otherwise this project is going to happen.
Great. Should I ask some questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was at the event in Dryden where Jason Leifer was there and the people from Dominion were there. And a lot of people were asking questions that to me seemed a little bit focused on the small scale, which I can totally understand. If you're expecting a construction crew, you'd like to know how early they're going to start, and it can be really frustrating if they're all starting at 7 in the morning and you've got, kids sleeping and all that. But it seems like
Let me cut to the chase.
You can focus two ways. You could focus on Dryden's inconvenience and the the local suffering, or you can look at sort of the global scale. You really need to stop the fossil fuels.
So the beauty is, these people have no idea that they can kill this project. How do we know? In the history of the United States of America, only 3 giant projects for natural gas storage and transmission that were approved by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission were later blocked and killed. And all 3 of them were killed by Toxics Targeting's fossil fuel infrastructure campaign involving people like you and your colleagues. So we killed Dominion fossil fuel pipeline project about a year ago. We killed Northern Access, which is just a couple of weeks ago. We just killed Crestwood natural gas storage on Seneca Lake. And we also, about a year ago, killed Northeast Energy Direct, another massive transmission pipeline that would have conveyed frack gas from Pennsylvania basically to New England, like Constitution. So we're incredibly effective. And so you're exactly right. People have to understand. Call Jason Leifer and tell him we don't want this project. And that's the message we have to send. We don't really want to hear how come they can't back in the trucks and why do they have to start so early and have all kinds of other extraneous requests that don't have anything to do with why this.
I mean, conceivably Dominion could come back tomorrow and say, all right, we're going to start at 10 and we're going to stop at 4 and we're going to not back in any of the trucks and we're going to give every household in that neighborhood a one-time bonus of $5,000. Now will everybody be happy?
I mean,
we shouldn't be happy.
That's a figment of your imagination, right? The Tooth Fairy could come down and pay for all our kids' college education, right? That's just not reality. You're right that they could buy people off, right? And you're also right that the most important thing isn't these small little trivial, concerns about noise and things like that. It's that if everyone is so against fossil fuel, we can't allow these massive projects to proceed without proper cleanup. And that's how come our message to Leifer is, kill this project. You're all big talk about climate change and about how bad fossil fuels are. Now you're just going to stand back and allow Dominion to proceed with
this. We do need a way to stop them, though, right? That's where I was, as just an average citizen, I'm like looking at the laws. They've got their permits, they've done their this, they've done their that, they've got millions of dollars. How can we stop them? And it sounds like, if I have this correct, we stop them because they haven't cleaned up the old spill. And if they don't clean it up, there's danger that all their digging and expansion will bring that to the surface and it will run into the
That's
creek.
Almost certainly going to happen because this area is surrounded by wetlands and waterways, right? It's got wetlands and waterways on 3 sides of this facility, right? But you're overthinking it. Almost all citizens think too much. They think, I have to be an attorney or I have to be a public policy specialist. The bottom line is all people have to do is call Jason Leifer at 607-844-8888 and press 6 and say, I want you to kill this project. I don't want this massive expansion of a frack gas pipeline in my town. If you don't kill this project, I don't care whatever lame excuse you come up with. I'm not voting for you. I'm not going to help you in any way. I'm not going to give you a penny. I'm going to basically beat the crap out of you every opportunity I get because I don't think that our town supervisor should hang back while this giant frack gas pipeline expansion goes forward. That's all you need to say. Kill this pipeline project. How you do it is up to you. Jason Leifer is a very experienced attorney. He knows every trick in the book. Right now, he's made a decision. He's not going to try to do the heavy lifting to kill this project. He's not facing enough pressure, right? He doesn't want to get into a fight with the governor. He doesn't want to get into a fight with Dominion. That's the bottom line. So your progressive colleagues and all the citizens that we've been working with to kill Constitution, kill NED, kill Northern Access, kill Crestwood, Arlington gas storage on Seneca Lake, we're now beating on Jason Leifer. Why are we beating on Jason Leifer? Because months ago we asked him so nicely to stop this project. We wrote very detailed letters. We documented the shortcomings of the stormwater pollution prevention plan. We documented the problems of the contamination at site. That didn't motivate him sufficiently to go out and slay the dragon. That's how come now we're in a pure political fight. People just have to go to toxicstargeting.com, click on Marcellus Shale, and look at our alerts. Look at our press coverage. And then start calling Jason Leifer and say, if you don't kill this project, I don't care whatever your reason is, I'm holding you personally accountable. And that is just the pure political reality that we have to face. If you don't want this giant pipeline to be expanded in our area, just tell Jason Leifer to stop it. And since you represent a very important political operation, if he wants your support, and you say to him, we're just not helping anyone to run for office if they're going to stand back and let these massive fossil fuel projects get approval. We can't support anyone that won't do everything that they can to stop these giant infrastructure projects that would perpetuate our addiction to fossil fuels for decades to come. That is just pure heavy lifting. He may not decide to help you. If he gets 50 phone calls, maybe he'll say, I'm taking the hit. If he gets 1,000 phone calls and people start screaming at him, he starts getting accosted in the aisles of the supermarket. If all the other board members tell him we're getting pounded, then they're going to have to do something. As long as the pressure isn't intense, they may stand pat, no matter what their avowed principles. But if they start really taking the heat, then they're going to change their ways.
And they have options, so they can find options? You said something about there wasn't a quorum at FERC anymore, that maybe they could apply for a redo or
yes.
something? Would that...
So Supervisor Leifer, to his credit, at our request, wrote the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to oppose these wetland and waterway protection variances, right? And he also wrote to the governor, but the solution he asked for, which was to have the state do a state environmental quality review, never would happen. But he told FERC, we don't want these variances to be permitted, but FERC ignored his request, right? But he wrote a very, very good letter, okay? So he could potentially ask for a rehearing of this FERC matter, right? And the problem is Federal Energy Regulatory Commission right now doesn't have a quorum. They can't decide new matters without a quorum. But the bottom line is, if Jason Leifer doesn't want this pipeline expansion to happen, he can put on his lawyerly thinking cap, he can confer with other attorneys, he can confer with other members of the board and come up with solutions. He's just not fighting tooth and nail. He's kind of waving as he goes by, saying, well, we're too late, we didn't require a special use permit, Dominion would have to volunteer now for the proceeding. Right? We were all at the public meeting, and he explained this, and the Dominion guy was 3 feet from him. He could have said, is Dominion willing to participate voluntarily in a special use permit proceeding? He didn't do that. He's totally ducking this. And I say that with all respect. It's plain as day. And I think that's irresponsible. And that's how come I'm telling everyone I know, call Jason Leifer, 607-844-8888, press 6. And really start getting amped up. If you don't want fossil fuel addiction and lack of pollution cleanup for decades to come in the town of Dryden, you gotta fight back. You can't just like someone on Facebook and talk big and then let these issues go by. You gotta work with your neighbors, you gotta do everything you possibly can to make sure the town of Dryden doesn't allow this to proceed, because we have a contaminated site already. It never should have been allowed to proceed. These variances for waterway and wetland protections never should have been granted. It's irresponsible on the part of the governor to stand back, but we're holding Jason Leifer accountable. With all respect, it's not personal, but if he doesn't do what we request, he's got to get kicked out. He's got to get battered. That's just the way it is, because he will have made the decision that he doesn't want to help the public interest on this matter. And then people will know, the guy's not a fighter, The guy will let a huge fossil fuel project expansion in his own town in an area that's supposed to only be limited for recreation and conservation purposes, right? This project never should have been allowed there in the first place, but it's been there for a long time. Be that as it may, people should just tell Jason Leifer at 607-844-8888, press 6, I don't want this project. I want you to kill this project. You don't kill this project, I'm holding you personally accountable. And all the other members of the town board, I'm holding you all accountable. I don't care whatever lame excuse you came up with, it's not good enough. Slay the dragon, stop this project. I will praise you, I will laud you, I will go help you in every way I can. That's how politics works. You reward your friends, you punish your enemies.
And what's the timeline on this now?
Now,
Urgent.
immediately, yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, this project has already gotten all the approvals that it needs. And unfortunately, it hasn't broken ground yet. So we're still in the fight, right? So we gotta slug it out. Every day is a political eternity. We've been meeting with Jason Leifer for months, since last February. He promised to write the governor to address these concerns. He said that publicly. I don't think he's done it. I haven't seen anything to that effect. Same thing, he promised to write FERC. They dragged his feet for weeks on end until we finally pushed him hard enough, and he did it. He wrote a beautiful letter. You can see it at toxicstargeting.com. Just check the alerts. This is political heavy lifting. You can hope and you can pray and you can be nice, but at a certain point you say, you know, I'm just really, really concerned about your inability and your unwillingness to stop this project. I really haven't seen you do what I think is required. If you don't step up, if you don't kill this project, I'm holding you accountable. I don't think you're everything you say you are. You say you're going to protect the environment, protect the town of Dryden. I just don't see that. That's what every person has to decide. But at a certain point, people will say, I don't think he's really doing what is needed. I don't think he's doing what the town wants. And then your only alternative is to kick him out, right? And then elect other people who are going to be better at protecting the environment. Dryden is always saying, we ban fracking because of our home rule litigation, right? The reality is now we have these documented problems that were never cleaned up to the applicable standards. They're not lifting a finger, right? It's really shameful. It's irresponsible. And so they have to be accountable. How come you didn't take action to stop this project even though you knew it would exacerbate existing contamination problems, right? And that's how come when you go to those meetings, everyone has their own strategy, but this is the simplest one. After all these months of pressure and phone calls and letter writing, just tell the town supervisor, either you kill this project or I'm holding you accountable.
And people from outside of Dryden can also call.
Absolutely.
Right.
You think if we got Barack Obama to call, he would say, no, I'm not taking your call, right? You think if some incredibly heavy hitter, Leonardo DiCaprio, right, says, I'm gonna bring you out to Malibu, you can stay in my own house, I'm gonna fet you, I'm gonna praise you, right? You think Jason's saying, oh no, you're not my constituent, right? People have to really crank up the heat. They got to use social media. They got to really push. I mean, it would be an incredible insult after killing fracking in New York, after killing $4.5 billion worth of projects in New York, that Dryden, New York, which is always taking credit for stopping fracking, allowed this giant pipeline to be expanded even though it had already contaminated their home and threatened the drinking water for 30,000 people in the region, right? This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the political reality. So I'm imploring everyone you know and everyone that has ever helped to safeguard New York from shale fracking and other fossil fuel infrastructure projects, 607-844-8888, press 6. Really convince Jason Leifer, have at him, make sound arguments, and do whatever is appropriate to try to kill this project. The last thing we need is more fossil fuel infrastructure that will perpetuate our existing problems. That's just a cardinal sin.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.